sexy people. It is Dave. It is Duncan. Uh, back for another album review.
Oh, that's what we do, Dave.
For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new release from Gothic Industrial duo Roscian. The band's new album, The First Disgrace, will be released on January 26th via Trepanation Records. Roscian.
I think people are worried when they buy stuff from that record label, like, Trepanation. I'm doing it. Hopefully it's in it. Is there a customs charge?
Okay.
It's a trepidatious purchase.
That's the level that we're dealing with on this podcast.
Yeah, like the humour never really get the humour never. In fairness, I don't know how many people are cracking jokes at the word trepidatious.
Oh, so what?
Fucking bread and butter. You know what I mean? Most people are looking it up in a dictionary.
We're levels above. Our intelligence is just way up there.
We are.
Humor is just another level.
Intelligence is here. Humor is here. In between is space. I
never made it as a wise man, Duncan. Never made it as a wise man. Okay.
I literally do not want you to die, but if you did, you never made it as a wise man, Dave Buchanan.
This is a new.
I'm going to get Chad Kroger to fly over and sing to the parishioners.
Well, he's coming over in May, Duncan, so make it happen.
I'm going to get him to come across and sing. And whilst you might think it'll be like a poignant song like Photograph or some shit like that, no, I'm going to get him to sing one of his most inappropriate tracks about shagging Avril Lavigne. Why is this the sort of Dave loved this song? He used to well up when listening to it.
Every song.
Speaking of welling up while listening to music, which is gloomy. See how I did that?
Segue.
Fill space.
This is a new collaborative project, a joint artistic venture between Jake Harding from Gravelines, Dolvasana, Dead Existence and Landscape, and also Simon Mason from Torpor. The two are well-known talents in the UK metal underground, but have started Roscian through their desire to explore and delve into new sonic territory, in particular finding a new guise to express their love of synthesizers and electronic instruments. Check.
Instantly love these guys. And I think everyone goes through that phase where they realise that synthesizers are the best instruments. Dave is still to grow into that phase.
Drums.
We won't hold it against him.
Guitars. Bass. Vocals. Triangle. Synthesizer.
Synthesizer is one of those instruments, though. I've said it many times before. Very easy to fuck up. Like, very easy to be like, this is the crux of the song, and the rest of the band are like, you sure? Yes, this one sound. Like, we're gonna write a song around that. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. So,
working behind closed doors during downtime away from their main bands, the duo have written and recorded their debut full-length, The First Disgrace, in their home studio, coming together gradually over a 2-year period. Immersing themselves into the dark realms of gothic industrial electronic music, the mixing and mastering of this record was completed by Wayne Adams at Bear Bites Horse Studio in London. Bear Bites Horse Studio. That is an awesome name. Bear Bites
Horse. Where are we? There are no bears in London.
No.
Maybe that's why, because they bite the horses.
Maybe. Roscian seek to explore the themes that burden the human psyche and reflect upon the world. The core inspiration being found through Hendrik Goltzius's series of paintings, The Four Disgracers.
I'm glad that we got to this because the album artwork is quite provocative, let's put it that way. So it's starting to make sense now.
An exploration of Greek mythology and Goltzius's use of paintings to criticise the seat of power in his era, a protest message and a sentiment reflected through time, honoured, recognised and truly felt. Jake Harding's lyrics were developed with these themes as a through line. The duo hoped to create a path to catharsis and conduit for collective outcry, a fever dream drifting between the hazy snapshots of emotion. What sounds ethereal and plush on one composition will soon lead to a scathing and more anguished expressions the next. The First Disgrace is a striking, daring, and uncompromising debut that will undoubtedly challenge and immerse listeners, one that is sure to impress in both metal and electronic circles.
Oh, you'll be the judge of that press statement.
Yes.
Back the fuck off.
Okay, so
this is interesting because we have right now two people that that encompass those two sides of that coin that was just mentioned. So
that is very true, Duncan. That's very true.
So we will see exactly where the chips fall.
Yes, and kind of like another album we've reviewed tonight already.
This is like when you were talking earlier on, I was like, has Dave got muddled up?
Why has Dave chosen this album?
Because I did get the feeling that this year you're being more accommodating to me, which I'll be honest, I'm happy for, and I don't want to upset that because
I don't know about that, Duncan. I mean, the first week we reviewed like 4 hardcore albums.
You're being more eclectic in terms of just your overall. There was a while there, about a 6-month period, where it was all deathcore and death metal. And whilst I love me some of that, like there was like long periods of time where I was listening to Wham to clean the palate. So I get the feeling that you're like some of the filters that were putting emails in the bin, one of them being industrial, have been removed. And stuff is starting to make its way through. Maybe. So is this another one of your I heard a single, I thought we should review this album?
Nope. This is this cool. Was I saw the guy from Torpor was involved and I was like, okay, cool, let's check this out.
We love Torpor, so
we did. We really enjoyed that their new album last year. So I thought let's delve in some of this industrial music.
That's industrial shite.
My first listen.
So you want to put your credentials up here. Dave is not an industrial fan. Dave likes the occasional industrial album and has like I think you have the most clearly defined this is what industrial should sound like.
Yeah.
Like that's it there. This is my box. I'm happy with my box. Stay away from my box.
Yeah.
Where I am pretty much all in an industrial and have been for the longest time. Instruments maybe have helped that, and I have a very eclectic industrial. For
as long as I have known you, which is a long time.
A long time now, yeah. Industrial has been my bag. So,
my first listen to this was cut short, Duncan. I'm not gonna lie. First listen, I got about halfway in, and I was like, whoa.
I thought you were going to say you crashed your car or something. Got cut, there was a power cut. I'd only transferred over 2 songs. Things stopped, I was like, it's a short album.
I don't know, I think my first listen, I wasn't in the frame of mind. I wasn't in the zone. I just wasn't, this album and me just weren't in the same place to be connected at that time. I was like, okay.
Air bites horse, Dave. You know what I mean?
And I didn't want to push it. I was like, I could just like power through at the end of the album, but I felt like if I did that, I might dislike it. It might put me off. So I was like, I'm going to step back. I'm going to take a day or 2 away from it, and I'll come back to it when I feel like I'm more in the mood for this style. Because as you said, industrial and me, we don't always mix. We don't always.
Oil and water. Industrial and Dave.
A little bit. But I think that kind of brings me to my first point here. This for me is a mood piece.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so we're good. We're on the same page on that. Okay.
So you've had a bad day, I mean, this is not a. I just got that big promotion at work. Let's go and listen to the First Disgrace. I mean,
right?
That's good. Not there. Never do that.
Excellent. I can't stress that enough. This is definitely like I had to be in the mood to listen to this one. This is also a hugely immersive release. So I actually do feel it works best as a full piece, even though I only got through half of it. I do think it works best listening to the whole thing. Although it is predominantly sitting within the industrial realm. It's got quite a big kind of drone kind of vibe to it as well.
And a topper.
Yeah. Which is, again, drone's another genre that can be love or hate for some people. However, I actually didn't mind it on this one. I'd listened to this a couple of times through, and each time I listened to it, I kind of found more things that I started to enjoy about it. I was unsure at first if it was totally going to be my thing, but yesterday I woke up from having.
See, if you mention your vinyl player one more time, I'm fucking it. Yesterday,
No,
my vinyl player arrived.
it did actually, but I'm not going to mention that vinyl player that arrived yesterday.
All of a sudden, music sounded crisper.
Sweet turntable. Sounded. Yeah, no, I had a really dreadful sleep the other night, and I woke up yesterday morning just fucking absolutely drained and fucking
Loud above you.
Yeah, I was just not in the mood yesterday morning. And my back honestly feels like the back of a 70-year-old man. I do not know what is. 2024 has not been good for me.
No, it's
so
because
far.
you just told me off air you built a ton of furniture.
I don't know. This has been going on since beginning of January, but this week.
Well, you're back.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I've no idea. I just woke up one morning and was
Carrying the weight of this website on your back, Dave. Is fucking finally caught up with you.
Oh, anyway, I started work yesterday morning, all fucking glazed over and shit, and I thought, right, okay, let's play this Roscian album, let's fire it on. And I don't know if it was because I was feeling like really sleepy or not overly like quite alert, but I had this completely different listening experience to this album.
Roscian does sound like something you take when you want to
for your back.
I was going to say when you want to sleep. You know
what I mean? Yeah. Well,
come
yeah,
on,
actually.
Roscian, phone me in the morning. You know what I mean?
And I was supposed to be working, but I
no one from your work watches these, so you're fine.
But I felt myself being just like pulled into this album and completely immersed in it, and I just like got so into it. The first track, To End to Begin, just so fucking good, and it's 7.5 minutes.
Add another 5 on is what Duncan says.
Actually, like, it's so hypnotic, that first track, and like when I listened to that first track, I was like, right, hold on wait a fucking minute, get these wee fucking pishy headphones, get the big headphones.
The big dogs come out.
Shout out to my wife, get the big headphones.
I can't move my back and I'm sweat.
Bring the big headphones. So, on with the big headphones, and like, if you've got a big, decent pair of headphones, I like thoroughly recommend getting them on. It just kind of elevated it even more for me. The voice of Jake Harding is just like perfectly suited to this. He's got like a kind of almost like post-punk type kind of crooning almost feels a bit like kind of 80s at times.
It's kind of I class it as kind of post-Ian Curtis.
Yeah.
Like when everyone wanted to sound like they were in Joy Division. It's kind of like that. Very reminiscent of that album from Throat that we...
I was just going to say that. that.
One fucking mind, Dave.
Yep, absolutely sounds like the guy from Throat. I was getting that as well. There's a little hint at moments of time. I was like, sounds a little bit like Mike Patton as well. Like just certain phrases and stuff. I was picking that up. But his choice of melody is spot on. Really haunting, but also memorable as well. But the other instrumentation is also just as good. The drums are in a very kind of industrial style, in that they keep it very basic. But I like that they weren't overly like digitized in sound. There's a quite a natural kind of tone, like especially in the snare, which I really liked. The synths are very like, I don't know if it was because I was wearing the big headphones, but if you feel like you're kind of surrounded by them, very atmospheric. But there's also some really cool like distorted sounds in there as well that gives the tracks a bit of grit. That first track, 7.5 minutes, I could have done another 5. I could have listened to more of that first track.
I was being pithy, but at the same time, I'm 100%
totally
serious. I could have listened to plenty of it.
However, this as we said, this album is an industrial album, so don't expect like those like soft crooning melodies to be there on every track. What Cannot Be Soothed takes a fairly bold turn in the opposite direction and goes very bleak, very menacing in tone. They really, really ramp up the industrial vibes. It's more discordant with the harsh kind of sounds and stuff. It felt like almost like old Author and Punisher at times as well, as opposed to kind of the newer stuff on Crueler. But I like the fact that every track kind of switched the tone. And it kind of jumps between that kind of like really dark and then quite nice and light. Some tracks are more almost kind of more interlude style, like In Silence, just giving you like swaths of big like atmosphere and color as well. Like for an industrial album, you don't usually get a lot of. It's mainly like a kind of grey affair when it comes to industrial, but there's moments on here that are very full of warmth and vibrancy, which I really liked. It's also an album that has hooks to it, which for me was a big plus. Like for industrial music to get me in, that's what we need is a hook. And again, industrial music tends not to be on. More recently, it's probably got more catchy, but it tends not to be on like a hugely catchy side. It can be.
That's why like hardcore original industrial fans don't like Nine Inch Nails. Is Trent Reznor singing? Is he writing a hook?
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. Fuck him in the ass. That's what I say.
A lot of the old stuff is quite cold and clinical or very abrasive. And this album has those elements as well, but it also has mood. It's quite gothic in places. So it has this kind of dose of melancholic melody through it. There's also a lot of vocal harmonies in the album as well, which gives it depth and a bit of texture. And it is a very, like, I kind of describe this as a very kind of yin and yang album where there's one part that is very extreme, and then you've also got another side of it which is full of these kind of dreamy soundscapes and floating vocal melodies. And I think they're brilliantly balanced on this album. A track like Sightless, for example, is just like equally vicious as it is ethereal at the same time. And that kind of polarity might kind of challenge you. I like to begin with, I found it a bit of a challenge, but once it kind of clicked with me, everything became more enjoyable. As we've said, I'm not like the biggest industrial fan. I tend to either
that's the first time I've mentioned
I tend to either like it or loathe it, depending on what the band is bringing to the table. But in this case, Roscian brought a lot to like on this album. Not every single track like left a lasting impression on me, but the ones that did, I really appreciated. And as I said, I can't imagine I'll always be in the mood for an album like this. It is, as I said, a mood piece, but it definitely has a time and a place for sure. Finally, just want to mention the kind of overall sound and the impact of the album. I think Jake and Simon and Wayne Adams have done a fantastic job of making this really sonically impressive. I love an album that makes you want to put on the big headphones to really like get that depth and the kind of detail of it. And this album has that. It's incredibly layered with sounds and but it never feels like too stacked on top of each other either. It doesn't ever feel like this is too messy or distracting. I think they found the right amount of kind of light stuff to complement the more abrasive side of their sound. But you can tell as well, this is a debut, but you can tell these guys have got experience. As I said, we've reviewed Simon's other band, Torpor, last year, and Jake's got a whole list of bands to his name as well. So although this is new, it doesn't sound like it's come from a couple of noobs. You know what I mean? Like, these guys sound like they've done plenty. They've got the experience. They know what they're doing. And I only imagine that the more they experiment with this project, the more impressive it will become. So initially, wasn't sure, but totally came round to this album in the end. Really enjoyed it. What about yourself? What did you think of this one?
Once again, I had no learning curve on the music. I by the first 2-3 minutes listening to the opening track, Tend to Begin, I kind of knew what I was getting. And yes, the album, that's not to say it's predictable, it isn't, because like you say, they do balance the kind of more gothy, industrial 80s sound with the harsh, sharp, cold, metallic industrial sound through their tracks.
Yeah.
but like I kind of knew the vibe. I knew
Yeah.
the tone.
Mm-hmm.
I could read the room, right? And I was like, right, I know what I'm getting here, and I tend to be, although I smile a lot during my reviews, my overall disposition tends to be a bit gloomier anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, let's fucking do this. Tend to Begin is fucking incredible. Like, I absolutely love this. Because you get, it's like the build up with the synths and the layers and whatnot. When the vocals kick in, they are very kind of. I mention this band a lot, who are not a metal band, but I do love the White Lies. I really, really like them. They have elements where they have done stuff that has leaned more. In fact, their second album, I think, was recorded with a guy that did one of the Nine Inch Nails albums, actually, because they wanted that sound, that vibe, that tone. But vocally, he has such a presence and such a kind of post-Ian Curtis sound that I like in a lot of bands that have a similar sound to his vocals. Throat's a great shout on that one. But when the vocals kicked in, it was gloom, it was 80s, it was kind of really, really cool. This track continues to lead you along, and then it does this such a fucking cool switch up, because it then breaks out, and then you get this bit of light that comes in. You're like, oh, right. And the vocals are like still crooning through it. You're like, this is really, really cool. It gives you it for about 30 seconds, and then this big old fucking nasty synth bass kicks in, and it's total fucking rank sounding. And as soon as it came, I was like, yes, this is what I want. And it just continues to like weave its way through. And yeah, I like it. Could have just been the album. It could have been a 50-minute just version of that, and I would have been fucking happy. But it's the switch ups that I really enjoy about this one. Like, specifically, there are a lot of tracks which you would generally class as filler, but actually, in the context of what the name of the track is, actually, the naming of the songs are very, very, very clever in that they liken to what the experience is like. To End, To Begin feels like a closing track in a lot of respects, as well as an opening track. What Cannot Be Sued is a big old abrasive fucking nasty like synthy thing like that. In Silence is a track that weaves its way through. Alter the Ashes feels like something that's starting to build on ideas. Grimswell is building up. In Fire is a track which is bursting with colour and like all the way right through it. Sightless, interestingly enough, does play best in the dark. Slow Exit is a track that essentially builds and builds and builds to the point that you think it's instrumental before you get this like vocal section right at the end. And Unhanded Discontent is a fucking great closer, because it's a savage track from start to finish as industrial tracks go, but even the last like minute is like this discordant stuff in the background, but it's harmonizing clean vocals that soar with reverb, and it's lush over this just fucking, it's like disgusting sound on the It's like borderline discordant. So the placement of the tracks, the titles of the songs, the way it's crafted is very, 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 very clever for two guys that have a love of the synth, but or maybe this is their first foray into that. They sound very accomplished. Yeah. Like, had you told me this was like album 2 or 3, I could totally believe that. I think they've got a good grasp on this. They clearly have a vision of what they want to do. And if they're talking about this being a project which is covering, what did you say, 4 paintings? Or 4 things like that. This is the first disgrace. You would imagine that we have 3 more in the pipeline. And if that is the case, very excited for that one. If this is covering one aspect and there's potentially another 3 within this conceptual idea to come out, I think it gives them great scope to really flesh out ideas. They could go lighter and that would fit within a theme. They could go even darker and more. It's in there. Like, you listen to that Topper album. They could do that if they wanted. They could introduce more harsher elements or really space out. They have a command of synthesized sounds which is really quite remarkable. People that say they want to get into synthesizers have a tendency to do too much. You mentioned it earlier on. They layer too much. They want to use every sound. And it becomes distracting, because there is always the element where you're like that. It was fine until they did. It was great until I heard. Like, these are things that you end up bringing in, because there's always that one sound that they use and you're like, why is there birds chirping on the... Like, why is that on here? Oh, it was sound 57. 57 is the number of my favourite rugby player. So it becomes a lot of shite. They didn't do that. The restraint on this album is you can hear they're in other bands. This is like accomplished songwriters approaching writing music in a different medium. I also agree with you. I found the drum sound surprisingly refreshing. It is very easy with a drum machine to go all in on some fucking Author and Punisher drums.
Yep.
They don't do that. It's clearly electronic drums, but it sound more akin to studio drums than they do artificial drums. So, and that actually suits the sound, actually suits the era as well. A lot of kind of 80s industrial bands, used drum machines in their infancy, but most of them had live drum sounds or sampled drum sounds that would play, which were recorded in the studio and then played throughout. So that works with it as well. I think, like, across the board, it is just a very, 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 very accomplished album. I think it's a hard genre to break into. It's very hard to differentiate yourself from other groups as well, because it's been on the go for so long and there are so many bands that claim their home as industrial. And last year I heard maybe my favourite industrial album in the last 20 years in the New Health album, which I genuinely thought was fucking incredible. And Roscian have come along on a different end of the spectrum. If Health's Rat Wars is a big fucking orgy, you know, of like muck and depravity, this one kind of feels like the morning after. Like despair. What did I do? I hope those videos don't end up on the internet. You know what I mean? Like the First Disgrace is that. It is a very mid piece is the exact way I would describe it. I have a tendency to lean more towards the doom and gloom anyway, so I will listen to stuff even if I don't necessarily feel in the worst of moods. Like, I can happily like spin something that is very dark and conceptual. But that being said, it very much like a comment you mentioned before, this is an album listen. I love album listens where, like, right, I'm clearing the next 40 minutes and I'm listening to this in its entirety. So yeah, I think these guys have come out like fucking a lot stronger than they should have, and released something that's really, really interesting with tons of staying power. Like, you come back to this, you'll hear another sound or another counter melody or something that you're like, that's the bit I like. And then the next time you're like, I know it's the bass bit that I really like. It's across the board here. There's maybe my only biggest gripe with it is I think there's maybe one use of a filler track too much. And when I say filler track, I know it fits within the concept, but a track where it's shorter, it's all instrumental, and there's maybe no that doesn't detract from my love of it. I think they could have maybe done something more vocally as well. They could have used more kind of like a vocal over one or two of those, even if it's just an ooh and an ah, to do something over it. Notwithstanding that, it's great. It's really, 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 really good, and I'm very excited to claim this year is the year of industrial music. I mean, this might be the only one we get. If your filter goes back on your emails, this will be the only one we get. But yeah, I think these guys are... It's a really interesting project. Like a really, really, really interesting project. And I would love to see this live. I don't think we will get to see it live. I would fucking love to see this live. Small, sweaty, dank, smoky club. Fucking, you can't see the band. The last thing I was going to say as well, Zetra. There are elements in here that remind me a little that it's the Zetra effect. Zetra and Unhand Discontent has, towards the end, reminds me very much of the closing track on Commencement by Dead Sea, called Commencement, which ends up in this just weird spacey synthy exploration of space and time. So yeah, this is a Duncan album. Surprise, surprise! He picked an industrial album and it clicked with me. Some people say I'm predictable. Well, fuck you. See that coming. Wait, let's get to scores. I'm cute because you've kind of, not calling you a flip flopper, but if the flip flop fits, wear it. Where are you coming in with the... What grade are you giving this one, Dave?
I think, like, for their debut album, I think it's very good. Although I didn't, like, instantly connect with it. I wasn't in the right frame of mind. But once I was, I'll just maybe not go to sleep the night before I'm going to listen to it, and I'll be absolutely fine.
He's going to be listening to Rossi in the morning. That's why he's not watching UFC.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think not every track like landed perfectly with me, but there's still a lot here that I'll enjoy coming back to on subsequent listens. I don't know, like that. I really enjoyed the Health album last year as well. It was quite a high
Oh, so
scorer.
good.
I don't think I've ever scored an industrial album 5 stars. I don't know if that'll
That's
ever
not going to
happen.
change here.
And
That'll
it's
be
not. It's not. I think I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on this one. I think it might creep up with more listens on this, possibly. But at the moment, I'm a 4 out of 5. What about yourself?
4.5. Yeah,
Oh,
it's not the top of the ladder. Like I say, I've just literally come off listening to the best industrial album in the last 20 years from a band that have been at it for years, right? And these guys are
yeah.
on album number 1,
Mm.
and they've got a 4.5 from me. I cannot wait to hear this progress further. I can't wait to hear what they go on to do next. If you're a fan of this genre of music, you're gonna love it. If you like some drone, you're gonna love it. If you appreciate the synth, you're gonna love it. And if you're actually looking for something that doesn't sound like everything else you're listening to, you're gonna love it. Yeah, if you've had a bad, I've already used that joke. If you're not having the greatest of days, a bit of Roscian. Take 2 Roscian. Call me in the moment.
Call me. Roscian, the first disgrace, out January 26th on Trepanation Records. Check out the links below to the band and the pre-order, which is on the old Bandcamp. Have a listen, see what you think, stick some comments in. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out, much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.